going to be reading mainly from this book here, The Dogs of Humanity, which is for Fly on the Wall Press. Big thank you to them for bringing it out in last August, to Isabel Kenyon, editor and manager extraordinaire of Fly Press. Mostly I'm going to be reading from that book. I'm going to be reading a couple of early ones, and then to close I'm going to be doing maybe not exactly new ones, but maybe newer ones, but just a few ones I've been editing recently towards the next book or various book projects I'm working on. In The Dogs of Humanity, as the title suggests, the first part of the collection, all of the poems are collected by, or themed by, this idea of dogs, and this idiom that we treat humans like dogs, where it's lack of disrespect or bullying or persecution or discrimination. But the book before that, The X of Y, had a dog poem in it as well. It was the first dog poem, so I kind of want to do that just to kick off. It's called The Unforgettable Dog, and it's partly a true story, partly inspired by a comic book by Neil Gaiman, Death, and it's about kind of the nature of forgetting. It's called Unforgettable Dog. I told you the story of that day, remember? The one with us on the sandstone promenade, the bay's breath hushed just for us, and how into that day came one remarkable dog, alone, no collar, no tag, no visible owner. He held a gnarled tennis ball, tracking beside us, the request obvious, and how we marvelled at this dog, running and leaping, corkscrewing backwards mid-air to snatch the ball in his God-crafted jaws each and every time. He was a miracle, and our smiles grew. And then he ran off, disappeared over the rocks and back to a home of which we would never know of. I told you our story of these few minutes, and you could not remember, knew of no dog, denied the beach, dredged out the bay, and because you could not remember, never beside me, never with some dog, then it did not happen. A story undone in one simple act of forgetting. The experience shared is the memory shared, and without memory, who do we become? Perhaps you ran off to somewhere over the rocks, away from the pools and the foam. Or perhaps the tide came in, unseen, to wash you clear of my life, leading me astray, astounded, observing, remembering a lie. So that was the first poem. That's from The X of Y, a book that came out in 2018. Originally came out with Eyewear Publishing, but because they're complete artists, is now not with Eyewear. I've regained the copyright to that, and I'll be releasing that at some stage. I don't know, whenever I get a month of work to work on it. There's another little poem, an animal poem. There's a few animal motifs creep in to some of the poems. Didn't mean to write all these animal poems, but there's another one about a cat, about a stray cat, or I think it could be a neighbour's cat, comes to my ma's back door. It could certainly belong to one of the neighbours, and it's just coming to my ma's back door to mooch for an extra meal. It certainly looks that way because it's fat enough. I'm not a great fan of cats. I'm not a great fan of dogs either. Sorry, cat dogs people that are out there. I do like ducks. If there's any duck people out there, then big up to the duck massive. But this poem is called Cat in Daylight. It's quite short. Taking sheets out to the dryer, the neighbour's cat crosses my path, looks to the empty bowl as pointed incrimination, two glass eyes expectant. I shrug my apologies. I have nothing for you. She cannot understand, is up at the window, watching us at cups of tea and boiled cake. I can't close the blinds in guilt, only to resolve to stop at shop for the cheapest form of ham. That's right, that cat only gets the cheapest form of ham. It doesn't really deserve any of the good Denny stuff. Or I suppose if I really should say, because my ma lives in Cookstown, ham. Oh, I know they make sausages. I'm sure they do ham as well. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, cat. Apologies. I did feed it, but just not high quality stuff. Sorry. Anyway, on to the dogs of humanity. I suppose I treated that cat a bit like a dog of humanity. So the book is in two sections, one dogs, the other one other animals. Basically because I didn't have enough dog poems for a complete collection. So I just had to get other animals in there as well. Actually, there was some dog poems, but kind of just editorial wise. Maybe they just didn't, didn't survive the editor's knife in a way. So I don't really tend to plan too far in advance of my readings. Anytime I do a live reading, I just bring a load of poems along and see how I feel, and usually judge the vibe on the night and the mood and the audience, but that's impossible to do now. So I'm just going to have to guess, or just simply do what I like. Hey, it's my reading. No one else is going to stop me, I guess. So it's a slim collection. It's not a full-length collection. It's kind of halfway between a pamphlet and a full collection. I don't know if there's a proper term for that. So some are obvious when it comes to what it says about how we treat people and kind of the social nature. When it comes to bullying, for example, and some are a little less obvious, and some are just kind of a bit more lighthearted and fun, and some also kind of touch upon chauvinism as well. But I'll let you connect the dots along the way and decide the themes for yourself. This one is called The Dog at the Table. I am not moving towards you in a way that is threatening or foreboding. Trust me, my steps are like my syntax, measuring out in drops of caution, spaced in order to give you breath. As a girl might approach a boy in a high street coffee shop only after finishing her drink, might I come to you now with a lip of foam hiding the coquettishness of my walk, and you will stay seated, reading Milan Kundeра's The Book of Laughter and Forgetting, as you get lost in a sentence and forget to look up to the angels. But look up from your borderline. I'm tearing up the packets. I'm adding sugar to your tea. The next one has a long title, which I regret because it's very awkward to say, but it's all the noises in different languages or in different countries that a dog supposedly makes, and we obviously see bark, dog barks, but elsewhere they have a different kind of onomatopoeic terms. So this is bark, ruff, arf, oi, boy, oi, yip, which I can't pull off. I'm just going to shorten it to bark for future readings. I cannot come to you, little dog. I cannot heal your barking with parson, or shut my ears no matter how many doors and windows I close. I am not your owner, or even a lover of dogs, not wanting a kiss or a cuddle in the way that so many lonely people do. All your words sound the same, an angry repetition born out of solitude and neglect. I've cried the same tune, spoken to the same dead air, and waited for the knock, the name, the car engine, that familiar note that only rings with the past. So I've noticed when you're doing a live reading, usually when Geraldine or I at the open mic Purely Poetry in the Crescent Arts Centre, which we're missing, you get, yeah, or, well, maybe not as enthusiastic, but you get a polite round of applause anyway. Obviously, you don't get that with a live video reading, so, when you get to the end of the poem, it's like, here's a few seconds of dead air, and now the next poem. So here's the next poem, Stages. Back then, you would go through the stages. The Faust box, the hair sprouts, the growth spurts. Now, you just stage pass and go and pretend to hit all the required stations while collecting your paycheck at the end of the month. And the thing about a monopoly board is that it's really a circle, and the only way out is either bankruptcy or jail. Sure, some of us may get to land on Mayfair or Park Avenue, but most sure can't afford to stay there for too long. The rent collectors are out with the long knives, and the taxman is coming to take everything you inherited, from your father's shoelaces to your mother's good graces and charm. But me, I hid everything in a deposit box somewhere, left it to rust, and utilised nothing of my fortune. That's why I'm such a miserable wretch nowadays. The dregs of the dogs down to its last stage. There are no refunds, no guarantors, and no one coming to underwrite your screw-ups. God is coming to collect, and the riches that he expects won't be found in your pockets. So I'm going to move on to the book. That's maybe about in the first third of it as well. As I say, I'm just kind of flicking through to see what catches me at the moment. This is a short one. It's quite a simple poem, but when I read it, people say it's effective. So I can only believe them. Maybe they're being nice. This is simply called Catch. If I was a dog, you might be a stick, and you'll throw yourself away for me to try and catch you again. If you were a dog, I would hope to be a stick, with you wanting to run after me and retrieve me again and again. But we will end up as two sticks, with other dogs running after us. You might be picked up, but I'll rather be left in the forest. Don't worry, folks. I'm in a happier, better place now. Geraldine, my wife, is just over there. I noticed that she's just commented and said I've got a mean Scooby voice in the comment fields. Only thing I can say to that is yikes. So that's as far as my Scooby impression goes. So I'm going to read a couple more from this. This one, I've kind of fallen out of love and then back in love with this poem. Sometimes I'm sure the writers out there, you do. And especially when you get a book published and it's all the nervous anticipation. And it's like, oh my God, is it going to be real? Is it a real thing? The publisher might, just cancel the project at any moment and go, actually, it's a big little shite, Colin. And then you get the book and it's a concrete reality and you hold it in your hands. And then you read it and you think, yeah, oh my God, I got a book. This is good stuff. And then you have moments of doubt and you go, oh my God, why did I put that poem in there? That's a terrible poem. I'm not too sure about that poem. For a moment I thought like that, but after reading this a few times, and I read it, I think a month or two before lockdown happened for the first time live, and I kind of reassessed where I stand with the poem now. So this is called The Wolf and Its Howl. The wolf has been with us for a while now. It watches us during lovemaking, nibbles a corner of the bedsheet and drools on the linen. It eats from our table, never waiting for mere scraps, pleasing itself on the main meat. It's the kick in our bellies when we cramp over from greed. The silence of thoughts so loud, providing a chisel to the nearest wall to transcribe our lone bestial wails. The wolf, it bleeds onto this rented household. I do not know how it achieved its wounds. Lupine mystery, we let it howl without a moon to show its teeth. We have no say in its lullaby. So, mentioning lullaby, I'm going to move on to the last poem in the collection, which is set at night at bedtime, and it deals with the most vicious animal of it all, the human, the humane animal. How many are dying tonight? How many tonight are listening to make sure that someone else is still breathing? The dark seconds of void where neither breath nor movement exist, and the other side of the bed is the unconquerable distance of a consciousness. How many can't sleep tonight? How many unable to lay despite the blackout curtains drawn to the world? The fertility of fresh sheets and lumbar support as useless as an alarm clock for insomniacs. And how many are scared tonight? How many want to burrow down into the nest like the newly hatched cuckoo and cry the loudest in order to be fed? Waiting to be recognised as an imposter amongst the living and thrown out of their present. How many are unanswered tonight? We all are. We all are. We all are. So that was the closing poem in the collection, Dogs of Humanity. You can get that from the Fly on the Wall Press website. You can get it in print, or you can order it on Kindle as well. So if you haven't got it and you feel like a new read during lockdown over the summer months, then check it out. I'm going to move on to work that's not in the book now. These are just poems I've kind of been working on, some newer, some older ones. This first poem is a poem I've sat with for a while, and I've just, where I believe in what it says, I've never quite got it right of how to say it, like a lot of poetry when it comes to editing and drafting. So perhaps this isn't 100% finished yet, because it's a bit of a longer piece, but we'll try it out and see how it goes. It's called This Is How We Live. It's been retitled. It used to be called This Is a Man, inspired after Primo Levi's If This Is a Man work, but I never felt comfortable with that title because, again, similar to dogs, I wanted it to speak to the whole of humanity. So it's called This Is How We Live. It is a simple thing to say that I am a good person. It is something else to prove it. And many good people have already asked themselves, what is goodness? Where lies greatness? From rulers to serfs, we've questioned our worth. And where are the answers? Where is the glorious redeeming light come to wash our sins of existence away and purge humanity from the soil of being? The dirt of living from fingernail to stained lip, for hand and mouth to feed confessions pushed down behind filthy tongues, as if our mouths could ever sputter forth words of redemption from our turgid little minds. And yet we have seen greatness born, stole inspiration from their achievements, and envisioned impossibilities because of what has come to pass. We've stitched the memory of their fatigue and figures into the tapestry of historic power, emboldened year with timestamps of progression and prestige. We wore emblems born out of their fabric to show the world how advanced we are, and adopted ideologies without fully understanding their execution. We stole their words from record and from page and engraved them onto monuments, gravestones, t-shirts, tattoos, and wore them as our own. We carried their cross from many stations beyond their death, and suffered heavy loads, looking to make martyrs out of ourselves. We found new martyrs and gave them throne before death robbed us of victory, and congratulated ourselves in cheating mortality. We built palaces and libraries of learning to house our philosophies, cataloguing gilded manifestos across dusty shelves. We marched into townlands and cities, crying our slogans with armbands emblazoned with emblems signifying our beliefs. We scored rudimentary images of mankind's first sights to the inside of caves, not thinking of the discovery of future generations. We explored space for a deeper meaning than Earth offered, and found an ever-expanding blankness at the end of a telescope. And history affords us these benefits of other people's learnings. So many walls breaking through, so many walls crumbling from the weight of intellectual investigation. We took shit and made it shine, took diatribe and transcribed into gospel, turned deaf ears unto the word of God, and we lost our way, our God forsaken away. So many energies spent of external examination of the world, new species, new planets, new stars to light our path. And we subscribe to the daily horoscopes, unquestioning, unflinching in the rollout of our lives. So, what does it mean to be good? How can we be immortal and great? And where is God? Claiming that God has died, God has abandoned us. Mankind was his joke, his entertainment, and now he has grown bored of us. And bored he should. The dying doesn't interest us. We give up on the dying and let them have their last words, last breaths, last meals, final wishes. What does it mean to us who have a future, whose life is secure? And God looks down at that security and waits for your time to come. He waits at your bedside in sickness and health, and tends your brow, your troubled, beaten brow. So, look at your tattoos, look at your emblems, your epitaphs, your armbands, your palaces, your libraries, your spaceships, your bloodshed, your slogans, your cities, your manifestos, your philosophies, your tapestries, your martyrs, your monuments, and consider this. Death comes quickly, and like a fire that swallows its neighbourhood, there will be no time to gather your possessions. Greatness has little need for possessions. It can stand by itself, secure in the knowledge that its tree bore fruit, and its fellow human beings ate of that fruit, and for a small moment they tasted salvation. That's that poem. Thank you very much for listening. I get a bit wound up and I don't know if angry is the right word, but excitable anyway when I read that piece. So I hope it came across okay. A few shorter ones to end the reading. I'm coming up to kind of 30 minutes here. This is called simply reading. Push your words away. Instead, tell me everything with your statuesque brilliance. I see your code, a dotted blink, dash of blush, and everywhere the semaphore of muscles, braille of raised brow, those bumps of slouched spine, driftward curl of inward toes, that fine jawline. I commit to memory the calculus of your cheekbones, in oracular distance, the breadth of your happiness as told by your lips. Let me catalogue the telegrams given out by your face. I'll translate this nakedness, announce the finery of your hips as all the rage, write down in gospel how you approach me, partnered by silence. I'm sorry for such filth and sauciness, Facebook listeners. Apologies for that. This one was inspired by a story from Keith Atchison, ex-manager of the Crescent Arts Centre, where we hold our poetry nights. This kind of comes from an old rural kind of cure. This is called Palmistry. Keith tells us of an old cure from his manor farmland. How a young cousin reached for the exhaust of a still humming tractor, scorched her hand in receipt, her father rushing her from the field to the cowshed, pressing her palm into a fresh dollop of dung. 2 minutes, 3 minutes on the pat, its moisture infusing with the skin. The next day, nothing. No blister, no scar, the skin as slackered as a cow's eye. I see that my wife has commented she hoped that last poem was about her. It was indeed, readers, just to reassure you on that. Before she shouts at me, she's just kind of giving me a look, just off camera there or no. So 2 more short poems to go. This poem was actually originally written in a Christmas card to Geraldine. We occasionally write each other poems, like on Valentine's or birthdays, at Christmas. And I like this poem, and maybe it'll be in a future book somewhere. This is called Weather Beating. It's not always a love poem, it's just sometimes about little moments that we share together. You check for snow. The windscreen mirrors the surface of the moon. Overnight canals, land-locked rivulets. The sun is a sniper on its December perch, not ready to shoot. We prime the kettle, dig out the scraper, unlock the door, move into battle. Obviously, because we did not have de-icer that morning. So this is the last poem. This was written in a workshop by with the wonderful Olive Broderick down in Castle Ward in Downpatrick. She runs a writers group there, Words for Castle Ward. Gerald and I go down occasionally. We always get a lot out of our workshops, and a fair few of the poems that have had its origin there have been published. So I'm very grateful for Olive for the continuing inspiration. She's an excellent facilitator, so shout out to her. This is called Riff Mas. It was inspired. Olive had bought in a number of curious little objects, curios, and there was kind of a broken brass ring, but I just picked it up and it felt very odd to hold, the size of it. So kind of reimagined it into something else. It's called Riff Mas. When she closes her eyes, the stadium disappears. Or she feels our lines and angles. Tested computations entered against hope, leading us to the 2 whole revolutions that steady the balance sheet. And when she opens her eyes, there are fractions of net and people, a faint smell of gypsum between metal and skin, the speed of her blood pushing at the sound barrier, the air impacting on her mathematics as she spins and lets go of the discus. So that's the last poem. Yeah, I wanted to kind of write something that was refilled just in the last line and built up to it, and hopefully that works. So folks, have gone almost half an hour. Thank you very much for listening. The only thing I can say is, have a look out for the book, Fly on the Wall Press, available to buy. If you're watching this and you're not a member of the Fly on the Wall Performance Group Facebook, on Facebook, then join up to the group. Quite a number of the Fly Press authors have been doing readings, and a few more lined up over the summer. Isabel has got a great array of talent and writers lined up as well. So please check that out. Support the press. Give them a like on Facebook and on Twitter as well, on Instagram. Wherever the kids are these days, doing the social media kind of stuff. This is my, as said at the top of the hour, this is the first live reading I've done. I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening, folks. I'm going to now press the big button to end the live video. But take care, folks. Stay safe. Where need be, wear a mask, look out for each other, and God bless. Take care. Goodbye.